Hey guys, welcome back to How to Roll Dice. I'm Josh, and in today's video I wanted to quickly show you a board game that I wasn't planning on buying, as well as the fact that our GenCon badges came in. So I guess I can start with that because there's not much to show. These are our GenCon 2022 badges for my wife and I. I'm not going to show you the other side because they do have ID numbers on them, and I'm not sure if that's anything that anybody could do anything malicious with. But we each got our 4-day pass. Bryant Bobaflex also got a 4-day pass. We are driving out Wednesday. The actual convention starts Thursday. So we are driving out Wednesday very early in the morning, leaving Massachusetts and driving straight to Indianapolis. We've done the drive numerous times. We've recently sort of discerned or deduced the best way to make the drive the least mentally harmful. In the past, we've tried leaving the night before and driving straight through the night and getting there around noon or 1 o'clock the next day. That works, but the problem is then once you arrive, you don't want to take a nap. You don't want to, I mean, you take a shower because you've been in the car, but you basically want to get right to it, right? So you arrive at your hotel, you take a quick shower, and then you run over to the convention. And so you're at the convention all afternoon and maybe some of the night, and then you go get dinner, and then you come back to the room, and then you're all excited and you're still talking about it. And you've essentially you've been awake for something like 24 or 30 hours, depending on when you left. And that's not good. Your brain really can't handle that, and it throws you into a fog that's very hard to climb out of, and that can ruin the entire weekend. It can put you in a very weird mental, physical place, and that can last a couple of days, which will eat up the entire weekend. Recently, when my wife and I drove to Disney World in Florida, we did it in 2 shifts because that's a bit of a longer drive. We drove halfway, spent the night in a hotel, and then the rest of the way. Indianapolis is close enough that we don't need to do that, but we did realize that instead of leaving the night before, if you just leave very early in the morning, maybe an hour or 2 before sunrise, you actually have the sun up the entire drive, or at least most of the drive, assuming you get there by 8 or 9 o'clock, which is a massive difference. Having the sun up while you're trying to make a long drive has a huge positive impact on your ability to stay awake and focus and not have to constantly switch drivers out. But also made the entire process, that sort of like long stint of driving, just feel so much less impactful because it felt like a regular day. It felt like waking up a little bit earlier than usual and, having to focus on a task a little bit longer than you normally would, like being at work or something like that, comparably. So we're going to try the same thing with GenCon. We're going to wake up very early in the morning, around 4 in the morning, not very early. Some people wake up that early every day. So 4 in the morning on Wednesday, we're going to drive straight through until about 7 or 8 o'clock at night, at which point we'll arrive at our hotel in downtown Indianapolis. I'm planning on trying to make most of that drive myself because I'm fine with pretty big drives. And then the convention starts Thursday morning. We actually lucked out and we got a room in an adjoined hotel. I believe we're in the full Marriott in downtown Indianapolis. There's a JW Marriott, there's a Courtyard, there's a Marriott, there's a handful of other properties. I believe there's a Residence Inn that are all technically Marriott properties. I use Marriott for work, so I tend to stick with them whenever I can. And so we'll be arriving Wednesday night, and we'll be there, bright and early in the morning, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then we'll do the same drive home on Sunday. We'll leave as early as we can, probably not as early as 4 in the morning, but we might pop into the exhibit hall for a couple of hours, maybe 11, 12 o'clock we'll leave, and we'll end up getting home kind of late in the morning of the next day, or early in the morning of the next day, I should say, but that shouldn't be too bad. So anyways, that's our plan for GenCon. Super excited. That's the first weekend in August. I'm going to try to capture as much as I can while I'm there. Last year, I did bring my gimbal and I tried to get a bunch of video, but the problem is GenCon is such an overwhelming event. It'd be like going to Disney World, is a good comparison actually, and trying to walk around with a video gimbal and record as much as possible. You're constantly getting distracted by stuff. The fact that you're trying to work the gimbal is sort of getting in between you and what you're there to do, which is to interface with other people, to look at vendors, shops, different exhibits, all different kind of things like that. As if, like if you were at Disney World, you're walking around with this massive gimbal, and every time you wanted to go to a shop or you get your picture taken with a character or go on a ride, you'd have to constantly put the gimbal down, turn everything off, then turn everything back on and get situated again and then keep going. It's just not conducive to actually experiencing the thing that you're there to experience if you're also simultaneously trying to capture it for other people to experience. It's very hard to do. It's a little easier to do at GenCon, fun, but it's pretty challenging to do overall. So I am going to try to make that happen. I tried last year. It didn't go as well. This year I feel like I have a better mental preparation for it, but we'll see how it goes. So GenCon 2022 will be there. Hopefully we'll have a great time, and hopefully I'll be able to show a lot of it to you guys. Then on to this little purchase right here that I was intentionally planning on not making any board game purchases until GenCon, as I've mentioned numerous times. But I actually just learned about this game for the first time the other day on Twitter. I generally am not a fan of social media pretty much across the board, but I understand that if you want to be a creator of content, you want to get it out to people, right now your best option, unfortunately, is something like Twitter or Facebook, the pretty standard social medias out there. Instagram, I have all three. I had turned them off for a while. I've since rejuvenated them because I had to have my own social media accounts so that I could properly manage the Captain Con social media accounts. A lot of the management capabilities that those sites have go through something like Meta Business Suite for Facebook and Instagram, or TweetDeck for Twitter, where you're not necessarily logging directly into the account, but you can have many people logging into a management suite, and that allows you to make posts and edit things and monitor comments, things like that. And so I had to have my own accounts, and so I reactivated my How to Roll Dice on Facebook, How to Roll Dice on Twitter, and How to Roll Dice on Instagram. I believe on Instagram and Facebook, I actually just rejuvenated the pre-existing accounts, whereas with Twitter, I had completely cleared the account, so it's a brand new account, so I think there's only 1 or 2 posts on it right now. But I've been trying to get involved and interact with other big game publishers and designers on Twitter to kind of sort of just be out there, be in the community, be involved. And I saw one post, which was actually a retweet from AEG, Alderac Entertainment Gaming, I believe is what their full title is, but AEG is what they go by. They're at Alderac on Twitter, and they retweeted an image of this game that was posted, I think, by the Cardboard Cafe. No idea what the Cardboard Cafe is. I'm thinking it's a gaming cafe, saying that they were happy to be adding this game to their shelves of playable games. And I saw the box, and I saw the pictures of the game setup that they had in their post, and I was like, what is that? What is the Guild of Merchant Explorers? It kind of sounds like the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, right? I saw the box, which looked really cool. I saw the game components, which looked really cool. I'll give you a better look at this here. The art style, and I mean, really just everything about it seemed really cool to me. I couldn't really tell you right off the bat why, but something about the design of the game really stands out to me and looks really awesome. And I like the idea that, at least from what I can tell about how the game works, I'll give you a little premise of the game. Each of you is a member of the the Guild of Merchant Explorers. I really want to say the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. The Guild of Merchant Explorers, and the Queen has essentially put out, calling all explorers kind of order, asking for members of this guild to explore across the lands of her kingdom, because the maps of her kingdom have become outdated, and therefore the cities and towns of the kingdom have been disconnected, and new towns and cities that have arisen have not been added to a common map. And so you're sort of tasked with exploring and adventuring across these lands to rediscover the lost cities and towns and towers that exist across this land, and sort of remap them and establish their position and recreate contact and trade with these locations. And so I really liked the way the game looks. Instead of having this one large sort of hexagonal grid style fantasy map on the table that everybody is interacting with, each player actually gets their own miniature hex fantasy map, and they're placing cubes and cities and towers along that map to try to sort of travel around and discover where things are. I don't know, because I haven't read the rules yet, if everybody actually sort of places the same locations on their map that other players discover, or maybe you're completely on your own. So for example, imagine it was something like a battleship grid, and there was column F and row 8, or row F, column 8. I can't remember how battleships worked, but like that cross point that somebody else found a city. Do you get to place that city on that same location on your map, or is it up to you to go find it as well? Can you use the information that you've just gained from the fact that they found it and you're just a little behind them? Or is that city in a completely different place to you? Are you all playing sort of like individual multiverse maps that don't actually correlate with each other? They're like different instances of the same world. There's also, from what I can tell, 4 different maps, or at least 4 different regions that can be played. Each map has 2 sides with 2 different region or version names on it, and there are a total of 8 different maps. So that's 1 per player, up to a 4-player game. It's a 1 to 4-player game, and each map is double-sided. So I don't know if that's 4 different ways you can play, or if you can mix and match them, or if it's sort of dealer's choice when it comes to dealing the maps out. But I just really liked the look and style of the game. I'll try to put some pictures of the game from like Board Game Geek up here so you guys can see them. But yeah, I was at the mall the other night with my wife, actually last night, and we were supposed to be going to dinner with a couple of good friends, her cousin and her cousin's husband, and we really like them, and they play games with us, and we always have a good time going out to dinner. And anyways, we're at the mall trying to kill some time. We were there about an hour early before our reservation, and we came across this game store the last time we were at the mall, but it seemed kind of like half set up. It seemed like a very new game store. I'll give them a little shout out here. This is at the Natick Mall in Massachusetts, and the store is called endangered hobbies, like endangered species, endangered hobbies, because if you're not part of the community, it does seem like board games are gone and card games are gone, you know, but if you're in the community, they're very much not gone. It's just not a mainstream thing, right? So they have a nice looking store. They have a good collection of Magic cards, both, you know, in package and singles for purchase. They have a large area to play card games like Magic the Gathering, or really any game that you could play across a table. I guess there's plenty of other games you could play in that sort of like layout. They've got a large section of like anime and manga action figures, manga novels, some collectible figurines and sculpts and things like that. And then in the back, they have some larger tables set up that you could probably use for like a D&D group. In fact, last night there was a group there playing D&D. I noticed somebody had a screen open. There were a bunch of players sitting around. They were passing snacks around and stuff like that. And that's sort of tucked away in the back of the store, not necessarily in a back room, but far enough in sort of like the back corner of the floor of the retail area that you're away from crowds if crowds were to come through. They also had a section of like D&D books, modules in that part of the store on shelves for sale, as well as a small smattering of what looks like 40K miniatures. I didn't get really close and check it out, but probably Age of Sigmar 40K mixed. And then a pretty reasonable collection of board games, about the same amount as you would find at like a Barnes & Noble's, but definitely more game store-esque. Barnes & Noble's and Target, for that matter, as I've mentioned in the past, are doing a great job of sort of turning themselves into miniature game stores. Nowadays, if you go to a Barnes & Noble's, you can probably choose from something like 40 or 45 pretty reasonable titles. I would say this store has about the same number of titles, but some of them are a bit more niche in the gaming community. They're not just like the latest and greatest that rolled out, which is more of what Barnes & Noble's does. And for some reason at this store, probably because they don't want to carry a bunch of inventory, on the shelves, there's only like one copy of each game. It's not like at a retail store where there's probably 4 or 5 games deep on the shelf. Again, that's more of a Target, Barnes & Noble's thing. That's how they stock. Even if you go to a regular a regular board game heavy gaming store like the comic store that I like to go to, or That's Entertainment, those really only have 1 or 2 copies of each game, but they've got like 100 or 120 titles. This store was the same way, 1 copy of each, but they only had something like 30 to 40 titles. And while I was perusing around their reasonable but small-sided board game area, which oddly enough is also blocked by some glass cases. This is one of the reasons that I thought the store was still setting up when I got there the first time, a couple of weeks ago, and now again sort of felt the same way last night. They have all these additional glass display cases, like jewelry cases or perfume counters that you would see at something like a department store. And it seems like maybe they came with the storefront, but they don't need them and they don't have anywhere to put them. So they just have them kind of like roped off in part of the store, like on the retail floor. And the area that they have them roped off in is physically blocking the board game section. In some sense, or in some spots, you can't even see the lower shelves of board games on display because they're blocked in by these glass cases. It's very odd. I'm wondering if maybe they're going to try to find a way to move those into a back room so they're completely out of the way. But I looked around the board game section and I saw a couple of titles that I was interested in, a couple of that I was expecting to see. And then I spotted this and I was like, hey, that's that game that I just saw that Cardboard Cafe posted and Alderac retweeted. And I actually commented on it. And I was like, how is AEG so good at like publishing these sleeper games that I know nothing about, I see no publicity on, and then all of a sudden the game's just out? And I just have to go find a copy because I didn't know it was coming and it looks awesome and it's out. And that was this that I was talking about. And they had a copy sitting on the shelf. and the game was priced for $39.99. Now, $40 is basically the bottom of the barrel for board games. If you get to a small box game, especially one that's card-based, you can maybe get down into the $20, $25, $30 range, but that's pretty low, and you're generally not going to be buying a ton of those because they're not necessarily board games. You get a lot of social deduction games and deception games in that range. You get games like Citadels, you get games like Gloomy Graves, you get Fox in the Forest, Stellar, Arboretum, perfectly fine games, but a lot of them are mostly card-based. They're smaller boxes. They're not larger, grander, board-based games. Everyone still refers to them as board games, or at least I do. Maybe you want to call them tabletop games, but I think they're board games. They fit into my board game collection. There's no board in any of the boxes, though. So for $40, that's about as low as you go for like a proper board-based game with components and tokens and things like that. And so I was like, $40, it just came out, 2022. I was just talking about how I want it, and here it is. So I'm just going to grab it. You know, I'm still going to go to the AEG booth at GenCon. I'm still probably going to buy a handful of their games because there's a handful that I've wanted that I don't have that hopefully they'll have there. But it was there sitting in front of me, physical copy. So I grabbed it. I perused through it a little bit when I got home. You can see it's not in the cellophane wrapping anymore. But I didn't fully open it. I haven't read the rules yet, but I am excited to take a look at it and actually see how to play it. Like I said, I really love the look of the game, the look of the components, the concept of the game looks really cool. I'm kind of a sucker for hand-drawn fantasy maps. I like to sort of partake in that effort myself whenever I'm playing an RPG or running an RPG. And so the fact that this game visually is basically just a collection of fantasy RPG maps, or fantasy kingdom maps, calls to me right off the bat. But it's got some wooden cubes and little markers, and it looks good. It's got a look to it. I like the look. Anyways, so that's all. Just wanted to update you guys. Got our GenCon badges, bought this game. I do have a lot of travel coming up for work. I'll let you know that right now. This coming Tuesday, so Monday is a holiday here in the US, it's 4th of July. This coming Tuesday, I'm going to be heading to Georgia. So it's about a 3-hour flight from where I am. I'm going to be spending a day or two there, then I'll be flying back. Thursday, Friday, I'll be home, but I'll be working on getting ready for my next trip because my next trip is that coming Saturday. So a week from this Saturday, 9 days from now, something like that. The 9th, I am leaving for Japan. And I'm going to be in Japan for a week. That's another business trip. During those travel windows, I'm not going to be getting anything done. And in that small gap between those two trips, I'm also likely not going to be getting anything done. So when I get back from Japan on the 16th, I'm there 1 week. I will be sort of regrouping mentally and getting, laundry done and getting ready to move back into a work week. So I would say something like the 17th, 18th is going to be the next time I post after this one. There might be 1 or 2 small things that I fit in there, but I am going to have some downtime for work. So you won't see a lot new. Maybe I'll try to do some more photo posts because now that I have my social media up and going again, I can do like a picture to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and a community post on YouTube that all sort of coincide, talking about something, whatever I'm working on, whatever I have to show. But other than that, don't expect any full-size videos between now and like the 18th, 17th, 18th of July. But other than that, I hope you guys are doing good, and I will see you in the hopefully not too distant next one. Have a good day.